the people you meet, the experiences you get to have. Like I was reading in your memoir, you have experience with Robert Redford, with Mel Gibson on the plane, right? With Gary Busey. Like, could
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about those that are in your book?
I mean, it's crazy that why am I on Mel Gibson's private jet?
You're listening to Studio 22.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Dude, it's so awesome to have you on. Grew up watching you and watching your stuff, and big fan, dude. So just
You're my generation. Like you
yeah,
guys, yeah, I probably hit you right at the right time. Some of those
yeah,
silly movies I did.
yeah, a lot of fun, dude.
Oh, the best.
Like,
Not a Christmas goes by without watching Home Alone with my younger brother.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? That just still blows my mind that like it has this life for so long. And yeah, I love that you and your brother get together because that's the stories I hear is like my family gets together and we all laugh together and we all, every year we do it. My grandmother and us, it's always something family oriented and a lot of laughs, and
yeah,
to be a part of it is just the blessing of my life. Amazing.
so cool, man. Yeah, truly like
Absolutely.
a one of those timeless films. It can be enjoyed no matter what year, what time, what like. It's just
Because
Generation.
John Hughes wrote a brilliant script. It starts there. I mean, he not only made a movie that had, I mean, that has all that heart and Christmas thing to it, but it's about a kid. The kid can handle himself, and he's only a little kid. And even though the parents screw up, I think families love that. Like the kids thought, oh, I could handle that, and then the parents thought, oh, if I ever really mess up that bad, I think my kid can handle. Like it was a very positive
yeah,
family message, and then you put all the silly stuff that me and Pesci were doing on top of it. John Hughes just created a little masterpiece, and Chris Columbus, the director, executed perfectly, and everybody was great in their parts. But it really started with Mr. Hughes having that vision.
Yeah, what was it like working with Mr. Pesci and then coming back for a sequel? And did you feel like you just had those characters so nailed down that coming back for a sequel was just, oh, this is going to be fun?
The sequel was crazy fun. I knew Joe before. Me and him had done a movie that no one's ever seen called "I'm Dancing as Fast as I Can," and even if you saw it, we were both cut out of it. We played two guys in a mental institution, and it
wow,
was a drama, but like we giggled the whole time, and he was so friggin' funny, and we were in. So when we got into Home Alone together, we already kind of had a way of being fun and funny with each other, and the script was so silly, and the vision was going to be that. By the time we got to the sequel, it was ridiculous because I mean we were just at that point, like in the first one, we were supposed to be scary at the beginning, and like
yeah,
and with Joe, like you got that, Pesci can't
yeah,
walk into a room without like, oh crap, it's but by the end of the first one, you knew we were idiots. When you started the second one, we were already we weren't going to fool anybody to be scary, so it was just stupid from the beginning to the end, that cartoon kind of thing, and in some ways that was even more fun than the first one because it was just balls to the walls stuff to do, fun stuff to do.
yeah. How much was that time in between shooting the first one and the second one?
A
Not,
year and a half, 2 years or
yeah,
something. I
not that
mean,
long.
it takes a while, yeah, it felt like a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
like it hit, it was a surprise hit when it came out. So it was but then they chased it right away. I mean, like it was number one movie, and then it was a number one movie, whatever. I mean, in those days, like it stayed in the movie theater for a long time.
yeah.
And they started to put it together and got John to write a second crazy one. And yeah, I guess it wasn't that long, and I did City Slickers in between them. So I was
Oh,
having that
wow.
was I was on a roll. I was doing City Slickers when Home Alone came out. That's when I found out it was a hit because Billy, I never been in a hit movie. I mean, I'd been in good movies, but not like a hit. And Billy, he's Mr. Show Business. So he had his Hollywood Reporter every week delivered to wherever the hell we were. And he said, "Your movie's number one." Like, and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, yeah.
And then the next week he gets his Hollywood Reporter. He says, "Your movie's number one again." I said, "All right, what does that do for me?" And
Yeah.
he says, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It was like number one for the whole shoot of City Slickers. And by
Wow.
the end of it, Billy was like, "This is crazy," and like no, so it was quite, yeah, it wasn't, it was
Yeah.
a little engine that could kind of thing,
Yeah.
It was sweet.
Was there ever a point where you like felt that this number one hit, it came, you're like you started, people started coming up to you all the time, or something in your life changed? Was there a moment that you like, whoa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When everybody started looking at me,
Yeah, yeah. That's
I
awesome.
mean, suddenly I'm, like again, I was an actor, but especially kids, my kids, the fame that I got from that movie affected me in a lot of ways, but it affected my kids and we just moved to a small town. Like I've never been a fan of living in a city or anything like that. We moved up to a little town called Moss Beach up in like outside San Francisco, but
Oh
like a
yeah.
little. It was beautiful, and we just moved there, and my wife moved everybody there while I was shooting City Slickers. And then I came home from City Slickers and Home Alone, and all the kids in the school were like, "Marv lives in Moss Beach," and was like, "What?" And so the kids got that was a sea change for them because they were the new kids in town and had Marv as a dad all of a sudden, like no one cared before.
Yeah.
So that started changing my personal life in a way, just like the fame aspect of it. And business wise, it was a good thing, because like I was in a hit movie, and then I did City Slickers, which was another terrific movie, and suddenly people thought I knew what I was doing. I had them going for a while there, didn't I?
that's
And
that's
yeah,
awesome.
kept rolling.
Cool, man.
That's such an amazing stretch. And then, was Diner one of your first films?
Yeah, that was my first one was Breaking Away, which was a
All right.
little about bicycle, a kid who likes bicycle, but a small town kind of coming of age movie, which was one of my favorite movies. I mean, I didn't even know what I was doing. I'd never been in a movie or anything. And then yeah, a year or two later, I got Diner, and that point I knew a little bit more what I was doing, but I loved that script because I just gotten married myself, so I was playing the married guy in that one, and a young married guy breaking away from his friends and everybody figuring that out, and it was another coming of age movie, which
Yeah.
sort of and good characters. That before the Home Alone stuff, I was kind of in that genre, and then suddenly I was a cartoon, bigger than lifey kind of stuff, which was a new gear to be acting in a way, which was interesting. I loved it. I was, it reminded me of all the stupid stuff the Stooges and Roadrunner and all the stuff. So it
Yeah.
was fun, but that other world, that Diner had been my sort of good parts in good movies, but never the lead or anything like that. Just always a character actor kind of guy.
I was fortunate enough to work for Jerry Weintraub on a few pictures, and I really wanted to ask you about him. And did you get to spend some time with him? And what was Jerry like? And all
A
that.
little bit. Not, Jerry was the coolest cat in the room. I mean, he was. This was a little thing for him. I mean, his whole thing was music, and the movies. He wasn't. I think this was one of his early movies as a movie producer, and
100%.
so it was a side gig to him. So he wasn't fully invested. He had the whole music and all that going. But when he came in, it was Jerry Weintraub, which was cool, and added a shine to the movie that a lot of us, Barry Levinson's first movie, no one knew who anybody was. So Jerry was a star of it in some ways as the godfather of the movie. But no, just, I mean, it was, I get intimidated. Like you're in the pres. He was a legend, so it was. I think we just drank, and ate as much on his tab as we could, and then he went home. Yeah, so he was. He was very gracious.
No, that's amazing. Like hearing that perspective of kind of him at that stage and, working with him at a different time period.
Right.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. You just try to essentially he's such a good storyteller and all that, right?
Right.
So you just kind of like sit back and enjoy.
That's what people love. I mean, and he's got excellent taste. So you put that all on top of it, and he got a lot done in lots of fields. He kept growing as an artist himself. His art was putting that stuff together, and he
Yeah.
was a brilliant artist in that way. And it takes without Jerry's nobody. All the actors and people are running around, they need that coalescing kind of visionary.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
Oh, so and you've done so many cool things, like from acting, directing. You did Broadway, right? You did a lot of plays, right?
I did.
How different was that from acting and film? Because that's more of where you started, right?
Well, I started in the theater. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
theater was like, I never even it never even crossed my mind to be in a movie or a TV show. Like that was just as a kid, that was something else. The only thing I knew about acting was the high school play, and my buddy was in the high school play, and I was working the lights. And I did that in junior high. I worked the lights, and then I got a job working the lights at the high school. And then I kept watching David Rosenthal, and everybody, he's so cool. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to give that a try.
yeah,
And so, I got into the plays, and I felt that love in the theater, that collaboration. I mean, if you've ever been just a
yeah,
high school play is the best thing to be a part of. If I mean, and a sports team, it's sort of the same kind of thing. I felt with all that high school thing. But again, I was also like a terrible student. I dropped out of high
mm,
school because I was dyslexic. I couldn't read or anything, but I was a good actor and a good artist and things like that. But anyway, I met some New York actors and they convinced me to move to New York. So I thought I was going there to just be in the theater, and like that seemed like beyond belief that I'd even be try out for a play in New York. But then I realized, oh, that's how people make money up there. Like they do a TV show, then they go do a movie. So I was 17, I was getting an education in what it even is to be a professional actor. That
wow,
I was a total dummy. Just kind of I didn't have much of an option. It was like either try that. This guy invited me to live with him up there, or work at the car wash was the other real alternative. So
a
I
little more
took the
exciting to go to New York, I think.
it was,
Yeah,
and all my friends were going to college and I wanted to do something, get out of my hometown. And but then yeah, so the movie thing that didn't happen for a few years. I barely made a living as a theater actor pretty much right away. I made $40 a week, but I could get by.
that's
And
amazing.
Yeah. So I did that for like 3 or 4 years. And then, yeah, right when my girlfriend, who's my wife all these years later, yeah, we were down to nothing. And then I got that Breaking Away movie like out of the blue. And I'd done a play and got an agent. So I'd had two auditions for movies. And then
Oh
I got
wow,
into that one and I didn't know what I was doing at all. But the director, God love him, Peter Yates, dear friend for my whole life, just like an angel came down and said, "Yep, you get a turn." It's
that's
been
awesome,
a
man.
crazy, crazy ride.
Well, and you cover a lot of this in your book, Home and Alone. That came out
Moving
of.
alone,
I know.
clever, huh?
Very
I love
clever.
it. I
How'd you
love
how'd you
it.
come up with that?
Well, I thought about it. Well, you know what was funny? Like I thought that would be, kind of, appeal to the
Yeah,
fans
yeah.
and all that stuff. But then I realized, like, you know, I'm home and alone a lot. Like that kind of fits in another way where I'm like in my art studio all day. We live on a farm out here, I can never leave. I mean, I go weeks without leaving the farm. My wife goes, gets groceries, she's a chef. There's so much to do around here and work to do and chores and I'm like, I haven't left the farm. So I thought home and alone, that's kind of like that really is it. And I mean, my kids come, my grandkids come. I mean, I'm social. Don't worry.
No,
Good on.
yeah.
But that's how I kind of like it. I got kind of shied away when that fame thing sort of hit. It does put you in a different posture a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, and as in your book, as you cover, you've been a journeyman your whole life, right? I mean, you've been traveling, you've been doing so many different things, and it's just, I could imagine, at some point too, it's like I'm gonna work on some creative stuff, right?
Yeah.
I definitely have moments where I'll take a weekend and just write the whole time or something, and I
Yeah.
love it absolutely.
And you're right, but you're still, I got to hit a point, and it happens in stages in your life. And there's earning years, and there's kid raising years, and there's work years, and then and you make choices along that way. And that was one thing that I did do that was smart. Like anytime I hit the cash cow on those movies, I socked it away. And then eventually I said to myself, because my kids were probably, you know, 12. Henry was probably 12 and down to 4 or something like that. But I went like, hey, everything's happening at home. The journeyman sitting in my trailer again, waiting for my shot and doing something. And I'm bringing home the bacon, but life is happening back there. And I forced myself to stop working so that I could enjoy the family part. And it really opened up like there's more to life than this, especially if you're fortunate enough that you can afford to take a chance on yourself. So those weekends that you spend writing, they might eventually turn into weeks that you get to take for yourself and put your mind to something. And that's the thing that I think my brother told, he said, my brother said, the thing about you, dude, is you finish. You write, if you're writing something, it's a book now, brother.
Yep.
Like you didn't just goof around. When you make a sculpture, like you take it all the way and you finish it. And when you're making so I do make that commitment. And if you make that commitment to yourself, you'll get it done, and then you'll start to give yourself time to do more.
And when you were listing off all the different type of years, I was going to say, and the wonder years. I thought I had
Oh,
it. I thought I had it.
oh, that's it. That was again that captured something for me on a personal level as well as a professional level. But that felt like my story every week. That those stories were so. And my brother wrote on that show, by the way.
Oh wow.
So he's a writer, and that was his first gig, and it
Wow.
felt like our hometown, and it felt like our era that we grew up in, and my first kiss and my homework and my lousy teacher, and to tell those stories every week was that's what this kind of like the home and alone book was, a chance to do that for myself. That's what it really was about, like just tell my story to myself, because it keeps going so fast. I wanted to just stop for a second and go, it's all too good. What happened? How did I even get here? How did and where am I going, kind of thing. So yeah, but I didn't write it as well as the Wonder Years, but I took my best shot at my Wonder Years on it.
That's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about the process in writing, and even how long it took you to write your memoir? What was that like for you?
Yeah, the process was, again, I didn't even set out to do it. I'd never thought about. I'm actually the funny, I just, I guess I hit 65, turned 65. I've got like 6 grandkids. I've got this
Wow.
farm. I've got these lives going on. And again, I just went, stop, just stop. Like, how did I get here? So I just, like, I'm a list maker. So I just decided to make a list of like like I was born, then what happened? Then we moved. I was in Philly, and oh yeah, I remember that. And my best friend was Tommy Horan, right? And then we moved. Dad took a job, and then we moved to Bethesda, right? And then I started kindergarten, and I just did that.
Yeah.
And then I looked at that, and then I thought, then my wife, we were writing our wills and stuff too, and she said, you should write that out. So like, if when these great grandchildren, if we've got their college education paid for, and they don't know who you are, like they'll read the book and they'll say, this is how grandma and grandpa got there. So I
That's
thought,
cool.
that's interesting. So I started writing it out, and then once I started writing it, like I wanted to make it funny, so I wrote a couple of chapters from that list. Like I just started going through the list and fleshing it out. Like, okay, Tommy Horan, what did me and Tommy do? And like, oh yeah, my mom sent us like walking to my grandparents' house. Then I Googled my grandparents' house. That was 2 miles away. We were walking through Philly at 4 to, then I go to my mom, like, did that happen? She said, yeah. I'm like,
That's
what
crazy.
were you thinking? And she said, I thought you could do it. And so like I go, okay, well I get that story now. And so I sort of put the book together, like remembering everything and putting it. And then I showed it to my agent, like a couple of the chapters, because they kind of made me laugh. And I thought, oh, it could kind of be a book. And then, yeah, then I went to my mom, my cheerleader, I said, I think I'm going to make it a book. And that's how I opened the book, is her reaction, which is like, you're going to write a book? You can't even read a book. And and why do you think that you're so interesting that anybody's going to want to read about you? And I'm
That's
like,
funny.
great, thanks, Mom. But it never stopped me before, so I just kept marching ahead. But then I just wrote it like every day. So it took me maybe 3 months to write it.
Oh wow.
And then I showed it to the editor. Then I had a publisher, and then then it was like I had to go to English class again. I'm the high school dropout. It's like, that's not how parentheses work. The period goes on this side,
Oh
and when you're
dang.
doing quotation marks, and I'm like, okay. So then I had to go through the book again and like correct all the stuff they gave me, and then, yep, you missed a bunch. So the process of doing it was kind of a cool other weird learning experience, another college course I never got to take, so
Yeah.
it was a good finisher to like the grammar part of the whole thing. And then, yeah, then it's actually like print. It's a real book. It's crazy.
That's so cool, man.
I gave it to my mom for Mother's Day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
That was really cool. Yeah.
Man.
I I loved the YouTube video for the book ad. I thought that was incredible. And my question would be, have you kind of embraced these new forms of mediums, like new forms of media, like
Yeah.
YouTube and all that, and how has it grown and adapted throughout the years, and what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's too overwhelming for me. I've tried it, but I'm creeping back in. I'm trying to embrace it. I'm trying to understand how I participate in it. I tried it a few years ago. My son's a state senator, right? So he was running for office, his first campaign, and my daughter had an album coming out. So I thought, you know what? Old Pop's going to step in here and really help. I'm going to try social media for it, like get my fans. That was my super plan, was I'm going to get my fans, tell them about Sophie's album and tell them about Henry's campaign, and like, just use social media. So I tried it. A friend helped me do it. Like, he posted my stuff, and I did it for that period of time, and it was really fun. And like, I did a couple videos that got like, millions of hits, and then YouTube invited me to go to their studios to look. Like, they said, you can shoot here if you want to, and I'm like, wow, anything, I could. And it was overwhelming in a lot of ways. And Henry got elected. Sophie's thing came out. I was like, with that, I wasn't quite sure how to participate. And then then life took over. So having the book come out, it was like, okay, and then they say, promote it on social media. I said, I haven't done that in a long time. And so I've kind of now get it. Like, I mean, I know what I like to do. I don't know how to please. I don't know how to sell. I don't want to sell myself. That's one thing if I'm retired in any way, it's like, I don't want to sell too much. And the book, it's like, with the book, I'm giving the money away. I'm giving all the money to the Boys and Girls Club of America.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
I love that organization. My wife and I started one. So like, all the money goes there. I want to do it for the right reasons. So with social media, it's like, hey, I put my sculptures up. And like, I love when I finish a project, like, instead of having to have it in a city and hope you walk by it, like, I'll put it on social media. I'm doing it for the audience.
Yep.
You can enjoy. then the book's coming out, so it's like, what can I do? Oh, that would be funny. In our house, the house came with wallpaper that looks like books.
Oh
Right.
wow.
Well, and here I am. And that's what inspired me was that stupid wallpaper. It's like I got to do something with that because now I'm an author, and so it was like, oh, that's funny. And then then I found that hair dryer. Like I did another one. So like the thing tickles me. I say, okay, I'm going to do that. Oh, I like that. I want to show that sculpture. I'm going to show that. Or like I was making tangerine juice. My wife said, oh, that one got a lot of hits because I still give it to Patrick. Patrick posts. I can't. I don't look at it. I don't know how to I don't know how to interact with it yet.
Right.
I'm just learning to put it out. And the stuff that they said you got 5,000 responses to that. I'm like, well, how do I even? I'm being rude to people because they're writing me back something, and I'm not answering them, and I feel crappy about not answering when somebody says, "Hey, Dan, I loved your thing," or "Dan, I went to high school with you." Like, so I've put it out there, then they respond, and I don't know how to. So I'm creeping into it. I figured the first thing I got to do is figure out what I'm even putting up, what I think if I'm trying to make people laugh one day.
Yeah.
Not stay engaged. It's a tricky thing, although it's wonderful opportunity for creativity. And
Yeah.
and I think young actors and influencers coming up, there's so much excitement. You can make your own movie right here on the computer, and like you don't have to wait to get cast in something. You can.
You didn't know that's what we're doing right now?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you make
Yeah.
your life. I don't know how you monetize it or any of that, but I want to get into your finances in a moment.
Cut the cameras, please. No.
That's like honestly two of the most honorable ways to, one, get into social media to help your family, and then to write a book and give it away to a nonprofit. I mean, that really is commendable, and I really do thank you for that. That's awesome, and you got to appreciate that.
That's the way I feel comfortable, because like, again, I've had to admit over the years I'm an artist, like, and like I have an artistic mentality. I just want to do it for that. I want to be creative for that, or help people contribute, all those things. But like, otherwise, like the selling. I've had an agent who's done great by me, and I like the business part of it. Like, go do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay in my lane. I like staying in my lane. I guess that's what it is. I like staying in my lane, and finding the creativity on the social media makes me really interested in it, because I just got to get over the pressure of
Like
performance. I don't know what it is. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I think even like what you're saying about maybe feeling a little bit guilty to not responding to everybody, right? Like,
yeah.
I think because I started on social media before I got into acting as well, and like and I had this overwhelming response of like hundreds of millions of views and tens of thousands of comments and all these messages all the time, and I'm like. And you want to respond to everyone because like you're genuinely a nice person and you're grateful for them and their attention and their time and everything. I think it gets to a point where
What did you do? Like, how do you do that?
well, I think like just obviously one, just be a nice person, be good, like be a good person. There's that moral compass there. But the other part is like trying to look at it maybe from another perspective of you're still giving your time, your energy, you're putting content out there for people to enjoy, and they get to see a little sliver into your life that you're sharing with them. And so even though you can't possibly respond to 5,000 messages, or maybe you have time, maybe that's what you want to do with your time, but just sitting back and having that exchange of like, you're still giving, you're still creating, you're still sharing, right? And that is something that's so cool for anyone who's a fan of yours, like us, that we get to see, and we get to enjoy. And so
that's good. And again, that's where I say it's just an artistic project.
Yeah.
I do that with the sculpture. I make it, I put it out there. You go look at it.
Yeah.
I make a movie. I put it out there. I've given it my all. I've done everything I can do. And so on the smaller scale or these other scales on the social media, hey, I got the funny wallpaper, and I got some glasses, and I'm not going to wear some pants.
Yeah.
So, and everybody giggle, and it's like good. And now I appreciate that perspective on it
Yeah.
because that's how I'm trying to approach it. And I do put my time into it. I want to put things out, and I don't want like I'm not going to take a picture of anything I'm eating.
Rule number one.
Yeah.
I don't get that part of it, the
Yeah.
sharing part. But if I've got something creative to show,
Yeah.
it's a work of art that I've made in one way or another. The final step of that is always giving it to an audience. For
Yeah.
me, I don't make it for me. I make it for you.
Yeah.
And I put it out there for you. And then once I put it out there, like you're saying, okay, I hope you appreciate that I put some work into it or thought or, giggle or whatever. And then it's yours to do with what you want.
Yeah.
And that's probably enough, but I still feel the guilt.
Yeah, no, it's
Getting
hard
over
not
it.
to. I
I'm
know.
getting over
I
that.
know.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm getting over it.
I don't know if it ever really goes away, but I think over time it maybe it lessens a little bit,
Yeah.
But it's still like it's so cool for you to share that with people, and
Yeah.
I think as an artist and as a creative as well. Do you have any advice for artists or creators out there that are looking to? Because it looks like, from my perspective and from everything I've seen of yours as well, like you just know how to have fun. And you're just enjoying your life, right? Like, do you have any advice for creatives and artists out there in the world?
That's a good one to try to enjoy the thing. Although that gets hard because a lot of and I put out my best face
Yeah.
because you don't see the tortured person who's in the room with me all the time. But keep doing and taking chances on yourself. There's a thing that I actually write in the book, which was the thing that freed me as an artist. And it was my son was he went to Harvard, I mean, he's a genius dude. So he was like in some advanced class on English, and I'm sitting on his bed in high school, and he's got this book about writing called Bird by Bird. Okay. And I don't know if I can say this on your show, but one of I'm looking through it again. I can't read the book, but I'm looking through the chapters, and one chapter is called Shitty First Drafts. Okay.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, that's funny. It says shitty right in your English book in high school. But I turn to the chapter and I look at the chapter, and this woman writes brilliantly about everything starts with a shitty first draft. You cannot be afraid as an artist that it's going to be bad. Shakespeare, that was not his first draft. There was a shitty first draft. There was a shitty first draft of a sculpture. There's a shitty first draft of a drawing. And then you give yourself something to work on. You keep honing it. But without the shitty first draft, you've got nothing.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the guts to put that out and finish that shitty first draft, make it complete, see the whole picture. None of it might end up in the final product, but
Yeah.
you've given yourself something to chew on. It's my list that I started the book with. I gave myself unconsciously, I gave myself a shitty first draft, like, oh, and then I saw beginning, middle, and end vaguely. And then and you just make yourself go and you honor your commitment to your art project. So if you're making a video, if you're making a TikTok, finish it, put it up. And so you're going to take it the whole trip from the crappy first thing, make it better, make it better. When's it done? Try to figure out when it's done, complete, move on, go to the next one, and you're going to be right back to zero because it's going to be shitty again, and get used to it. But get those muscles strengthened so that that's the artistic process of anything. So that would be my advice, and it's at your fingertips in some ways on your phones. It's at your fingertips with digital art. I mean, there's so much going on technologically that it's scary in some ways, but it's thrilling in others.
Yeah. Is it cool if I make a bumper sticker by you that just says "Get shitty"?
Patented. That's a trademark.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is really amazing advice, man.
I love the part as well of the ending, right? Like at some point you have to say this is done and I'm moving on, or this is a complete draft and I'm moving on, right? Because I think a lot of people really hold on to something and say, no, it's not quite perfect yet. It's like, you know what? You got to get it to that point and go. So the beginning and the end, I think, is super important.
Exactly, because that's it's not. It doesn't happen if you don't. You got to stop. and again, like I did the audio book of my book and I'm reading it. And now I was supposed to read it out loud to myself, what I actually wrote. That was the last step. And I went, what? I wrote it like that. And I was like, yeah, well, that's all right. All right, move on. Cause I'm already working on something else and I got this. And that's the other maybe piece of advice is keep another thing going.
Yep.
Try not to let yourself get to that blank page standstill. So when I know I'm finishing something, I slow down on it. So I slow down the ending so that I can start something else in the backup so that I know when I get to the ending, I'm not afraid of the ending because I've already started whatever the next project is. So I'm not going to be at a dead stop because that's why some people don't want to finish because you got to start the next thing.
Yeah.
And if you've got it started, at least the shitty part of it started, that's how I work. Just to have the next thing. I'm already doing that in my studio. Like, oh man, I know that's almost done. And I'm slowing it up so I can do the next thing, at least have it going.
And I think as a creative, that's extremely important as well, because sometimes, if the inspiration hits you, but it's for a different project, you don't want to waste that inspiration that you're getting at the time, but put it into something, right? And projects take time too. Sometimes you need to sleep on one or sit on it for a week and just come back
and
to
have
it.
something to bounce off to. Yeah, and have something to go to. I love going between. That's why I like the sculpture, and then I'm writing, and then I'm just doing some physical labor on the farm, and then I give myself time to do my brain to let it go, and then I'm back on a play. So, but I am committed, and I've made the commitment to myself. I'm going to finish them all. So they might, yeah, I mean, it's a challenging life to live in a creative space, to make up new stuff, to think of new things to talk about, to find things that interest you and will connect to the audience. You guys I mean, it's amazing what you guys have done here and just built a thing on your own again. And that you're perfect examples of what I'm saying in this new environment, and you've already grown into 2 new roles, and there's more creativity ahead for both of you.
I appreciate that a ton. We're working on it for sure, but that means a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's how it happens.
And I think it goes back to what you're saying about having that next thing to move on to work on. I've got a lot of friends, and I did this for a long time early in my career. Is I was just only focused on acting, and there's a lot of hurry up and wait or the feast or famine style of what it is in this industry. It's just the way it is. There's not always the next job around the corner, and I found it was very it could easily get very defeating. And you talk about a tortured soul, right? And in our own mind we can get really dark and go down a path that maybe we shouldn't be on. And I have friends like that, and so I changed myself into exactly what you're saying, where all of a sudden now I'm diving into real estate. I didn't think I'd ever go that route. Now I'm writing a script, or I'm we're doing the podcast. We got a comic book, and just being able to properly channel that energy, but also keep you creative, and it challenges you. And things that you do over here, can transfer over to that other thing or force another idea out. It's
and
just
your
like
engine's always running. Your engine's always going, so that you're not caught. So when you do get an acting gig, you're up to speed. And everything isn't riding on it. It takes the preciousness out of it, and especially as an actor, dude. Because you're the product. So you're rejected personally. No, we don't want you. Yeah. We don't even. It's not even that we don't like the shoes you made. No, it's you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, that was my day today. Like they didn't want me. So having those other things to bounce to, especially if it's crucial.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it a full life too, because otherwise you lose control. You're waiting for everybody else to pick you out of the pile, and that's no way.
No, and that's exactly like me transferring from the other way to this way. To your point, is I have more joy in it now. Like I'm enjoying it as much as when I first started, because again, it's not the end all be all, but it is a major part of who I am and what I love to do and what I love to bring to the world, and to have that balance or that, it's a really big blessing. It makes it so much more fun.
Makes all the acting, you bring it to the acting, and then you're really giving it to the audience, and you're giving them, and with all that experience comes a wisdom, and then as you grow as an actor and just as a person, that starts to come through in your performances. Like now I'm the I'm playing the wise old man, on the I've moved into that, and it's like I used to look at actors and go, how do you do that? You just stand there
Yeah.
and you don't do anything because everybody invests in you.
Yeah.
But you keep growing. Especially as an actor, you have to have a life behind you,
Yeah.
a life that you're to just understand
Yeah.
people, which is the gig.
Yeah. And it's such I feel like it's such an exciting gig because one, you don't know always what the next job's going to be, or there's no limit to it. It's not like, oh, you become an amazing actor and that's it. It's like, no, there's a whole nother character or genres that you haven't even tapped into, no matter who you are. And some people can do them across the board, right? But getting to that point where it's exciting because it's not linear, and you can go in any direction. I think that's always been really exciting. And even in your personal life, what happens outside of it, the people you meet, the experiences you get to have. Like I was reading in your memoir, you have experience with Robert Redford, with Mel Gibson on the plane, right? With Gary Busey. Like, could you tell us a little bit about those that are in your book?
I mean, it's crazy that why am I on Mel Gibson's private jet? But but I wanted to show the reader like why I am, because Mel's a terrific guy. His wife and my wife, they were fundraising for the Boys and Girls Club that we were building. There's other, it wasn't just that like we all jet around in Hollywood. I mean, he does, but I don't.
Yeah.
But then you also realize like, or with Gary, Gary's an insane, wonderful, crazy person. But nobody's in the business. I mean, you're not like you make it up as you go along, and suddenly you're also doing it in a spotlight with people talking about it, and it gets distorted, and the celebrity thing, it mess with my head a bit, and it messes. I mean, it can't help but mess with you, for better and worse, and it brings out something in you that's in you, like how you deal with it is, and so. But all those people are, again, when you take all that away, and it's Robert Redford. Robert Redford is as handsome as he is, as charismatic. He's a brilliant filmmaker and a brilliant actor. And you get down to it, he's an artistic guy who loved to tell stories as a kid, who did his school play, who was so handsome that he got that part on a Broadway play, and talented and funny and all those things. And these are artists who are, eccentric people. I've lived and worked with artists my whole life, and I love being around them. But they're all whack, probably including me. Although I seem like the normal one in the bunch. Don't you agree? No.
100%.
On to the next question.
Well, speaking of Gary Busey, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about Rookie of the Year, another one of my favorites. What was that experience like, and did it kind of compare to Home Alone and some of the other '90s ones, or?
Well, it's uncomparable because that was the first film I got to direct.
Yeah.
So that I'd been directing on the Wonder Years and had developed movies, but they never got the green light. I was the original director on Ace Ventura.
Oh, wow.
And could not get that made because the movie, if you look at it from a script point of view, makes absolutely no sense. What is this movie about? What, he's really going to see Don Marino at the end? I'm like, how to rewrite this? How does this? And I'm reading the script over and over. I'm like, after a year on that movie, it's like, I don't know how to. I leave the movie. They hired Jim Carrey. Oh. Yeah. Now I get it. You don't have to. Dan Marino, sure. It doesn't matter. The movie's freaking crazy. Yeah. I mean, so. But when I'm on it, it didn't come together. Rookie of the Year came together. So it was my chance to own a movie, to rewrite the movie, to tell a story that I loved. Again, a empowered kid who can handle himself in that. And the baseball, dude. I mean, like the dream of being on Wrigley for months at a time, taking batting practice, fielding, playing with the real baseball players. And my son's name is Henry. And in the show, the kid is 12 years old. It's Henry. I'm coaching my Henry's baseball team. So like I'm into the whole, I mean, it was perfect. And then getting to edit the film and score it with Bill Conti,
Mm.
the Rocky, I mean, like learn about composers working with an orchestra. Again, it takes you into worlds you never know you're going to be in. So Rookie was just a seminal experience for me. Continue to this day, and the the love of working with crews and getting the best out of people really, that's what I'm most interested in show business now, whether it's directing or I'm producing a Broadway musical now,
Oh,
actually.
that's cool.
Congrats.
What's it
So
called?
working with it's Chud,
All right.
my own horror movie. I weirdly ended up with the stage rights to Chud.
That's awesome.
But now
Wow.
I've developed it. I got CeeLo Green. He's written like 15 songs for the thing.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
Broadway producers like it's all like, oh,
Dude.
I'm a Broadway producer. I can write a book. Sure. I mean, you just keep going and stuff happens. So Rookie was the first time I moved out of the acting thing and fully into the behind the scenes telling of stories. So that was, and I got, then they asked me, I played Brickma in it, which was sort of tapping into the silly Home Alone, like I was trying to get seats, butts in the seats. Hey, yeah, I'll do some silly,
Yeah.
wacky stuff, and we'll get that Home Alone crowd to come see my movie so that it's a hit and I get to do more.
Yeah, I was definitely a part of that crowd as a '90s kid, and there's something about those stories that just have that dream fulfillment, right? Like,
Exactly.
that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pro athlete. I wanted to take care of my house if intruders were coming, right?
Right.
There's just that common thread of that dream fulfillment that was just so satisfying, I think, to watch.
And empowering for the kids. That's what I think. I think besides just the entertainment part of it, what I realized writing the book was that like the connective tissue of my life was that I was an empowered kid. I was hitchhiking. I was walking Philly at 4. I was hitchhiking on my own at 13, 17. I'm in New York. So like I felt empowered as a young person. Then the movies, the big hits, they're about kids, empowered kids,
Yep.
right?
Wow.
You can do it. And then in my volunteer work, the Boys and Girls Club, what do? They help teach these kids to be critical thinkers, independent, focused on schoolwork and jobs and mentoring and all that stuff. And like that's when the story of my life came together, because that's where the dream is, man.
Yeah.
Getting kids, getting the next ones behind you. You guys are younger than me. Now they're my grandkids. Get them ready for this crazy world.
Yep.
Let them find themselves, find their voices. And that's what those movies were about. I think that's what rung the bell that keeps ringing on the Home Alone and
Yeah.
Rookie and movies is like, you can do it. And the parents say, yeah, you can do it. And you did it. And you won. And you're the champion. And you beat the bad guys. And it's like, yeah, let's keep that message. However you want to tell that story, keep telling it, because
Yeah.
that's the one that always has to be told.
Would I be reaching for straws if I said City Slickers was like that too, in a way, where it's city guys actually getting out in the
Absolutely.
country and yeah,
And it wasn't so youth oriented, those others, but that's what the movies are all about. The
yep,
underdog story. We love underdog. We're always rooting for that underdog. That pulls something, that part inside us that feels like the underdog. We all feel, no matter
Hmm.
if and again, Robert Redford thinks he's the underdog, even though you go, well, Robert Redford, he's the king of the world. But no, he's like, everybody wants to tell those stories. And by the way, the movie I worked with him, same movie again, Milagro Beanfield, an underdog of the biggest kind, rises and wins. That's the story we all want to hear. Crazily, as humans, we never get tired of it.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. We just want to. That's the part I'm still wrapping my head around. Why do humans like to do this so much? We tell each other stories. We're reading books. We're watching movies. We're telling shows. We're doing It's all to connect with each other and say,
Yeah.
"I'm doing this." Is that what is? Are we doing the same thing? Because then I feel good about being connected to you, and I love that about the human I mean, that's our higher selves,
Yeah.
right? Not the violent and all that. We're very primitive at the same time and have a lot of primitive side to us, and keep reaching for those, teaching that lesson to the people behind us that be good, good guy
Please.
like you said, just be a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying too. Like, I just want to comment on how cool it is that you were able to reflect and see that your entire life, essentially from a young age, has come full circle, right? And like to me,
Right.
that just sounds like someone who is fully in alignment with their purpose. Like you have fulfilled, and you are fulfilling your purpose as a man, as a person on this earth, and you're giving that back to other people. And I think exactly what you're saying is, as a young kid, so many of us have hopes and dreams, whether it's you want to be the astronaut or the actor or, whatever it may be. But that fear or that insecurity or that all the stuff from the world, that the pressure that comes on, it beats up on you, right? So when you see someone
Yes.
shine through, it gives you hope to go do that thing too, right? So that's why it's so cool, because I
Got
don't
to.
think there's anybody better to invest in than a child in that space. It just,
It. And it has to be everybody, not just culture, teachers, coaches. The kids need mentors. Like, it wasn't just my parents hovering over me, telling me what I could do, and the friends and the parents paying attention and saying, let's try that. And like, don't be afraid of that.
yeah,
It takes a lot. I mean, it takes a lot to. Oh, I think it takes a village. I was, but it really does.
yeah,
But the more focused we are on that, it's that critical thinking stuff. Like, that's the first thing I started teaching in the high school. When I started to take time off, I made a course. I went to this place called Center for Media Literacy, and it was like, how are images coming through media that are giving kids signals? Because it started with, like, did it hurt when you got hit in the head with the brick? And I said, I didn't really get hit in the head with the brick. And they said, what? And I'm like, and that was the parents, not just the kids. The parents, you didn't really get hit in the head. How does that work? I'm like, you need to understand, like, and then we got into marketing and how people are marketed to, and just giving those kids critical thinking skills to say what's real, and now with fake news and disinformation, like
yeah,
understanding media, because that's where it's all happening, and mentoring kids like in that space, like, how do you discern the truth? How do you know what don't you know? Like,
Right.
you think you know everything, just pointing out you don't know a lot. And so it's all those are complicated lessons that takes everybody to develop good children. But that's the only, I mean, that's our whole primal thing, is procreate, make the next ones better. So
Yep.
get to
yeah.
work. Kids do you guys have between you?
Zero.
Come on, guys. What are you wasting time here?
You know what? I need to get a farm and pop out 10 of them. That's what I need.
Yeah.
No,
No, yeah,
it's a wonderful. I mean, that life goes any way you want it to, and that's a beautiful thing. And yeah, having my own taught me a lot of stuff. But I love other kids. I mean, I loved coaching baseball.
yeah,
I love teaching in school. I just get hope from the whole thing. The parenting is something else, but the just watching young people become themselves is
yeah.
thrilling.
And my older brother just had a baby, so I think he's turning 2 this summer. So watching your older brother do it, you're like, oh, I could do that. That competitive brother thing
Yeah.
kicks in. It's like we always competed in sports, and now it's
Yeah,
like,
now you're gonna do it. Yeah, and
yeah.
it's you learn a lot about yourself. They
Yeah.
really they're little mirrors on back onto you.
That's
Totally.
yeah, and it's amazing how much they pick up, especially at the younger ages, like a 2, 3, 4. When you really see them like learn on demand, basically, it's incredible. But
I got 2 3-year-olds here
oh, you
yesterday.
do?
My granddaughters were here, and they are so freaking smart. And I pulled in my truck, and I got out, and my little kid, one of my granddaughters, I go over to hug her. She says, "Grandpa, you're in Grandma's parking spot. You need to move your car. You're not in the right spot." I said, "Well, okay, but I'm just no, move it now." I'm like,
Oh my
right. Well,
gosh.
I guess I'm moving the car. Just like, why do you care?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
she's developing her own world. Like, no, things have to be in order.
yeah,
Yeah.
Not doing it right.
yeah.
Please move your car where I feel comfortable. It was
That's
amazing.
amazing. Yeah, that's
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
great.
I've learned over time. You know, I've got a lot of nephews and nieces, and I love kids. You know, I've been around kids my whole life, and whether it's in my family or friends or whatever it may be. And the coolest thing to me is that a child can be a teacher to you, and vice versa, obviously, right? But the lessons you can learn from a kid are, to me, is mind blowing. You know, I think it's one of those things like it's just unique being here on earth with other people sharing this experience, right? And connecting with people. But when you learn something from a 2-year-old, like empathy or kindness or whatever it may be, sharing, you know, even if it's something simple, it changes your perspective. And like you said, this world is anything we want it to be, right? So we get to pick and choose those little moments and then write them into our wiring and then show up in the world
Exactly.
that way, right? So
Exactly.
it's the same thing you do with your movies, with directing, with your acting, with the stories you tell, everything you share. This book now, you know, Home and Alone, it's helping people. I can just see it, you know, I can feel it, even just talking to you, you know.
I can feel it coming back
Yeah,
this way.
yeah, it's it's
It's
it's
the same thing with
amazing.
you two. I can feel, you have a very unique chemistry here going on, and the way you talk and the things you're interested in, and
Yeah,
you're doing it. You're what we're talking about.
yeah,
You're in the midst of it. It's hard to see it when it's happening when you're
yeah.
doing it because
It's
you're
very
still
true.
striving and you still got your comic book going on in your head. But like cumulatively, you guys are on the march already, and people are looking up to you, and you're already role modeling for those young people and your nieces and nephews, and the kids you might meet who come up to you and recognize you and all that. It's
Yeah,
it's you. That's where I've learned the most about myself is just being around kids,
yeah,
and so why did I get pissed about that?
yeah,
But it's my problem. I got,
yeah,
why do I need the order or why do I need something? And the challenges of raising kids was, you
yeah.
know,
Was
brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the most rewarding thing I think we can do on this planet, right? Like, I, I, I think
Kinda.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were
Although I
there?
totally do respect the not having kids thing because that's a whole other way to go. If you don't want to
Yeah.
have kids, you still have all these other responsibilities to contribute and love kids and mentor kids when they
Yeah.
come into your. If you don't want to have your own, I completely get that. That's a whole other game, but that I might not be for everybody,
Yeah.
and I completely respect that. For me, I mean, I've been a dad since I'm 24. I wanted to dive
Yeah.
right in, and I've always wanted that. But either way, you're going to be influencing the world and the next generation,
Yeah.
whether they're your kids or not.
I've always loved this quote. It's basically, you know, if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them, you know? And I feel like that with everybody, but with kids specifically, you know, 'cause there's
Let's have
something
that one tattooed along with the shitty bumper
yeah,
sticker.
get shitty. Yeah. Yeah.
I want that one.
Let's do it right next to Big D.
Perfect.
It's going to be all.
Need a bigger car.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's awesome, man. For me, it just listening to you talk, man, the way you are, the things you've done in your life. I feel so inspired by you, like even in this short amount of time that we've gotten to know each other a little bit. And as an artist, I've found, you know, I've always only wanted to be me, you know, and I want to be whatever that best version, the highest version of myself is. And I'm just curious in your journey, because I did deal with this in my adolescence and a teenager, but was there ever any point where you struggled being your authentic self, you know, or maybe how did you overcome that? Or have you always just been like, this is me, you get what you get, and I'm just showing up and doing my thing?
Uh, you know, there's lots of me.
Yeah.
I'm a different person with my wife than I am with my mother,
Mm.
than I am with my kids, than I am right now. And they all line up, but and then there's the one that like, yeah, again, in the studio for 8 hours, like, and in a Zen mode where I'm not even anybody, maybe that's really me when I forget about myself and I'm immersed in a project or work or sports, like where my mind, I'm not focused on myself. But I never, No, I never had that struggle of my own authenticity or who I am. I mean, again, it probably got challenged in the fame thing, like
Mm.
having to present a public person that like people are going to listen to this show. And I've really edited myself brilliantly, by the way. And I've only said gems, which is fantastic. No, but like you try to, yeah, that part of the public part, I don't think other people deal with that.
Yeah.
And probably, if you're just like, I don't know if you would wrestle with that if you were the CEO of or just even in middle management somewhere.
Yeah.
You still wonder about your relationships and your all the things, but in terms of a public face, I think that puts extra pressure, especially on actors, because you're hyper aware. And actually, the job is to be your authentic self in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
actors have it for better and worse. My authentic self sometimes isn't the best one, or I mean, like it's like you can get in touch with a lot of different sides of your personality, and so yeah, I think for all the weirdness of the being a performing artist, uh, I think it's healthy in a lot of ways for
Yeah.
me anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a it just popped up I think this week actually, and I just it kind of made me laugh a little bit. But I saw the original Home Alone home went up for sale. I don't know if you
Oh,
knew that.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you didn't. So you haven't heard?
Why would
Okay.
anybody buy that?
I don't. I don't know. But I was going to ask you if you had thought about buying it. But I think that was our answer right there. Yeah.
Well, it's a tourist. I've had friends like people
Yeah.
go to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, there's now a fence around it. An actor friend of mine was like, took his kid there, and I'm like, you went there? He said, yeah, it's a thing. Like people
That's
go
hilarious.
buy it. And
Yeah. Well, now
but
it's for
who
sale.
would you buy? Would
What are you
can
going to
they
live in it? Like,
monetize
what would you
that
do with
anyway?
it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that people are staring at you, or you're selling posters across the fence. Like,
Yeah. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Yeah. I just thought it was a funny
I'd
little
love it.
little thing
It
that popped
is.
up.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Because I mean, when we shot the movie, obviously it was just a house in the neighborhood, and
Yeah.
we were just a little movie. So the neighbors all like we had the directors' chairs. You have directors' chairs. We had extra directors' chairs, and the neighbors came and sat and watched us film the movie.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
we got to know a few of them, like because they were out there at night watching us do it or something. So I mean, it was a
That's cool.
very cool neighborhood that we totally messed up by that movie there. Hopefully property values went up, but the hassle factor, my sincere apologies.
All the film
That's
trucks
hilarious.
and the equipment and all
All
that.
that. But forget that goes away. But every year, I mean, people are going by there and having their parking must be a disaster in their neighborhood now.
And then yeah, the residual of the
Yeah, the residual is the worst part of the whole. Like, yeah, there's people like taking their snap and doing this face. I mean, they must need therapy after watching people do that face for so long.
Do you have any other maybe favorite Christmas movies that you put on, excluding Home Alone, obviously?
Well, I never watch Home Alone, so that one. I saw that at the premiere, and that was the only time I've ever really watched. Actually, when I was writing the book, I wrote the section on like where I get the tarantula on my face, and then I say, and then Pesci hits me with the crowbar, and I was remembering it, and then I showed it to I think my son-in-law said, that's not how that scene goes. I said, what? He said, yeah, you have it on you, and then it's on Pesci, and you hit Pesci, and then he hits you. I'm like, I got to watch that again. So I Googled the clip. So Home Alone is not on my watch list. Uh, we, we don't really have a Christmas movie. I mean, when we gather around, the one movie that my family loves to watch together, like, because I don't like to myself, I don't watch movies more than once usually anyway.
Right.
Like, I mean, I'm not. I love that people dive in, but like I'm a one time and like, and now I've seen that. I've seen that. Like
Yeah.
I want to see something new.
Makes
But the
sense.
one we do like to watch, Moulin Rouge, for some reason.
There we go.
There you
Max
go.
Lerman, it's so spectacular. The singing, the production of it blew our minds the first time we saw it. We all like just the five of us as a family just. What is that? That's the greatest movie. So So again, maybe that's the feeling that people get with Home Alone. The first time they saw it, they laughed their asses off, and it was so funny. They want to recreate that. So I think that's what we're doing. Now that I'm saying it, that's what the holiday thing is about. So first time we saw Moulin Rouge, it was like we just all had such an incredible experience together that we put that on when we want to hang together.
It makes sense. The theatrical background, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
that's such a amazing film for sure.
And the design, just the visual and it's something in it for everybody in my family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything, for your time, man. I know we're hitting 2:00 right now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, yeah. And
What the hell, guys? I've got a lot of things I've got clay to play.
Wow. Well, honestly, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. But no, yeah. I just want to ask where everyone can find Home and Alone and where we can pick it up.
I would say the bookstore.
There we go. There we go.
Barnes and Noble. I know it's on Amazon because I saw that.
We'll be sure to put a link to it.
There's a link, and there's I did do the audio book, and I just found out that comes out on the 9th of July, or supposedly.
Okay.
Ooh,
So that's not at the same time, and So I would. I mean, I'm not trying to plug Amazon, but that's the only way I know how to buy anything anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like it's.
I got two things coming from Amazon today, so I'm with you.
Yeah, it's like we're having the Amazon delivery guy over for dinner because we're such good friends.
That's awesome.
I already ordered my physical copy of the book, and then the audio book is actually right around my birthday, so I'll buy that for my birthday to myself.
Then I'll really get in your head.
Start inspiring all the creations. I'm going to be thinking about that wish fulfillment, though. I really am. And this has been just a legendary, inspiring conversation. And I really, really appreciate your time. And
Guys,
appreciate you, man.
Me too. Yeah, you guys are very special, and I'm so proud of what you're doing. Really, it takes a lot of gumption to get anything going, and you're doing it beautifully. So congrats to you guys.
Appreciate you, Daniel. Thank you for everything, man.
Okay.
Dude.
Good.
You're the man.
Okay. All right. We'll talk again, I hope.
I hope
Absolutely.
so, too.
It means
you got to read your book.
Thank you for watching Studio 22.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And follow our socials at Studio 22 Podcast.